If you can't nail focus in 2025, then just give up. Give up right away. The fact you had the confidence to take your Lego figures outside and photograph them in public, and you get home with an image like that is an absolute disgrace. I'm going to tell you now, this is the last time you send your images anywhere. You send this to me, what the Was that a good intro? None of those reactions were real, those were all my photos. I just needed a good intro, so hope you enjoyed those ones. Hello and welcome to a new series on this channel. It's reviewing your Lego photography that you have sent to me. Now, last week on my Instagram, I set up a story and asked for you guys to send me your 2 best Lego photography images. Now, not to flex or anything, but you know what this is? You know what that is? It's a Bachelor of Fine Arts graduate right here. I graduated with this and I now use it to take photos of Lego. Yep, 3-year course. I learned, no jokes aside, I learned a lot from this course, but I'm now applying a lot of the stuff that I learned into Lego photography. Anyways, enough rambling, let's get into the photos and see what we have. So the first 2 images here are by Alexander Emilio. Apologies if I pronounce anybody's names wrong. Starting off strong with these 2 Batman figures. Now I'll start with this image first. I really like this image for 2 reasons. One, the contrast is really good and it's a really nice composition. Like that low angle showing that this hero is like massive, you know? Big hero. Low angles, big hero. You know what I mean? But I really like how the Batman poster in the background is kind of looking down at him. It just adds to the image. If it was just like a white background, then it would be, you know, still be a cool image, but I think having the Batman looking down at the figure, I don't know if it was intentional, but it was a really good choice. But the second image I really like because I don't know if you've done this with a long exposure and you've moved the figure as it's taking the image, but it's such a cool effect. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about it. It's a very cool effect. I really like it. I like how creative it is. I like the black and white filter as well. I think it's very fitting for this character. My only nitpick with this is I kind of wish the frame was a little bit cropped in and lined up. The figure kind of looks like it's falling to the edge a little bit. That's my only critique. It's very, very small. Yeah, I give this image a solid 7 out of 10. I think these images are really cool. Nice creative components, and thank you for submitting. Also, before I continue, don't take these critiques too harshly. I mean, I'm just giving my opinion and anything I say is backed up by this, so I know what I'm saying. I'm not gonna, yeah. Just don't take it too much to heart. Now we move on to Brayan. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. We've got these 2 images here. I'm not a huge fan of the Ahsoka photo. I mean, it's cool that it's on a tree and you get those nice textures in there. There's not a whole lot going on. I was talking a couple weeks ago about activation, having something that activates the scene. Sometimes a figure doesn't do enough to do that. Adding a lightsaber to the figure or, you know, some sort of communication device could evoke that story and that activation, which you've done really well in this image here, where you have a story behind it. You've got Emmet behind the tree branch, and then you've got what looks like a walker, and you've got Ahsoka. And I really like the color grade on this as well. It's like you've got the muted colors, and I really like it. I don't know what it is. I really like not only the colors, but the composition. There's a lot more of a story behind this image in comparison to the first one. It's a cool figure and I like where you've placed it, but I think there's just a little bit more in the second image. So still a really cool collection of photos. I give this a 6 out of 10. Good stuff, man. Now moving on to Christopher Atai. Hopefully, again, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing these wrong. This image in particular, I caught my attention immediately. So it looks like he's set up this marble on a bunch of Lego base plates, but it looks like he's used a keyboard in the background to light this up. I've never seen that before, and I think that is so sick. I love that creative component because I've never seen that before. It immediately caught my attention. It works really well because the keyboard has individual lights for each key, of course, and then when you have that reflecting into the marble, it just creates what looks like a really cool looking sphere. Like, it's a really well done image. It's super creative. And then in this image here, again, I think it's really, really nice. The sunlight looks amazing, and the composition itself, having, you know, I like to see figures not always in the center frame, sometimes sitting off to the left or the right, using the rule of thirds to your advantage, and I think you've done a really good job here. My only critique is I kind of like to see the background and the big statue or whatever a little bit clearer. So, you know, just opening up that aperture so that we can see that that would really help. But still, 2 solid images. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. Well done. Next we move on to Christopher Peters, and this Indiana Jones photo is, I don't know how you've done this, honestly. I mean, the depth of field is so shallow to the point where the only thing that's kind of in focus is Indiana Jones himself. And I really like that because you're immediately drawn towards him. And kudos to you for using, I don't know what this technique is called, but it's essentially when you take, you know, Lego arms and legs and you blue tack them to their body. So in this case, he's used his leg to make it look like he's kneeling on the boat. And I'm giving you credit for that because I do not have the patience to do that. It's such a tedious task that I never tend to do that sort of stuff. So kudos to you. It really helps with the image as well. Because if he was standing normally without his leg over the boat, it wouldn't be as cool, but really good job here. And then the second image is just, it's so clean. I haven't got a whole lot to say about this because it's such a nice image. My only critique though, I like the addition of the moon, but it's almost like the background before the moon is a lot blurrier than the moon itself. And I think the moon should be just a little bit more blurrier so that it creates that natural depth of field, because at the moment it looks a little bit too sharp to look like a natural moon. But still, 2 really solid images. I give these images a 7 out of 10. These are really, really cool. If it seems like I'm being brutal about my rating system, the way I rate it is like based off creativity, execution, lighting, and a whole bunch of other things. Moving on to Dino Lee, we have these troopers in what seems like a battlefield, and I really like this image for a couple of reasons. One, I really like the way that you've edited the blasters. I think they look really, really good. I like those flares that it gives off, like those muzzle flares, and the dirt is almost right. Like, it looks realistic in the sense that it kind of matches the colors on the right side. It could have used a little bit more feathering to make it blend into the image a bit better. Like, it gets a little bit bad on the left side here. Like, this area here could be removed, but the way you've set up the shot I think is really cool. I like the angle, although I'm not always a fan of like high angle shots of Lego figures. I think you've done a really good job here, and I like the addition of real life objects like the stones and the rocks and the extra Lego figures and pieces. I think it's very cool. It's very well done. The second image, however, I like the idea, and you've got the Lego figure in the background kind of lurking, but I think it would have been nice to see the red ninja in somewhere a bit more interesting. This little dirt patch, I understand why you've done it because it's easier to place here and you see more of the character, but it would have been nice to see him in somewhere where there's like, you know, kind of like these clover looking plants. You know, I think that would be a little bit more interesting. I give these images a solid 6 out of 10. Good stuff. Moving on to Ethan Livingood, we have one of my favorite shots from this entire series. I mean, I'm not sure how you accomplish this, whether you put him in the sand and he just kind of stayed there like a trooper, but this photo is so sick. I love how you've got him is either at a beach or a lake, and you've got the wave in the background coming towards him. Like, again, I was talking about activation. If this guy was by himself in the lake, it would have been a really cool image, but the activation of the wave coming in the background just adds to this image so much more. My only small critique I have is to make the landscape level. That's my only critique, but I really like this image. This is very, very cool. And then again, with the Indiana Jones image, I think it's really nice having this to an open tree branch, and you've got the nice green moss on the left, and you've got him, you know, holding on to the branch. It's very, very cool. 2 solid images. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. Very good stuff. Next, moving on to some more adventure themes, we've got Jack Warner with this brilliant image of a canoe. Now, I know how difficult it is trying to balance this canoe in any water. I tried doing it in the fjords down in the South Island, and that was the trickiest thing of my life. You've done this so well. You could have either gone for like a reflection shot or, you know, this top-down shot which you've got here, and both would have provided interesting images. But going for this top shot here is really cool because you can actually see through the water. It's a really solid image. The attention to detail as well, like having the oars just touching the water as if they're about to dip it in. It's a really very, very well executed. And then on this image here, I love the attention to detail. Like, you have almost layers to it. So you've got the spider web in the background, and then you've got the 2 characters in the middle, and then you've got what looks like white frost as well, and then you've got a Lego leaf at the very front. Like, that all provides a really, really solid landscape. And also having the map just visible where you can see the X on it as well just helps this shot so much more, because you can immediately identify that's still a map that he's holding and he's on some sort of adventure. For these images, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. I really like these images a lot. And then moving on to quite possibly the cleanest and the prettiest photos of this series, we've got Jacob Lego Wyatt. Just look at the lighting on these images. It's so beautiful, man. And it looks like you've taken characters from a bunch of Lord of the Rings figures and kind of merged them together, which I really like. You've created your own unique characters for your own story, which I think is really, really cool. Like, this image would be so nice to have printed. It's such a nice image. I really like this one. And then the second image, just with an insane reflection here. I mean, just look at that. It's a perfect reflection. My only critiques with this image is the sticker is like peeling off, and that kind of took me away from the image, and I would have liked to see a little bit more of the background. And I have an incredibly shallow depth of field. I would have liked to see what else is going on in this image. But two solid images. I give them an 8 out of 10. Really good stuff. Thank you for submitting. Next we move on to Jonah Altamirano. Apologies if I'm pronouncing these wrong. I'm so sorry. This image really caught my attention because it almost looks like, it's like a scene that you would see through the POV of like night vision goggles. It looks very, very cool. The muzzle flashes look really good, and the lights on the helmet look insanely cool as well. And just the dirt, and you've created this environment extremely well. I'm really impressed with how it all looks. Like, it's a really cool image. I think you've done really well here. As far as the second image goes, unfortunately it is out of focus. This just tends to happen when you get too close to a figure because they're so small. If you get too close to the figure, then it's impossible for the camera to focus on it. And, you know, just to fix that, you just move backwards and then crop in if you need to in editing. This would have been a cool shot, but, you know, again, unfortunately it's out of focus. I give these images a 6 out of 10, simply because, you know, you got an image that's out of focus. Next we move on to Jonah Frost, and this is the first time I've seen it in a while, but he is using what's called force perspective. And the way force perspective works is, in the distance you can see that there's a Star Destroyer and there's almost like a landscape. And the way he's accomplished this is just using small Lego pieces and having them far away. It tricks your eye into believing that this is actually so much bigger than it actually is, because if you put these pieces next to Saw Gerrera, it would be, you know, basically the same size. But because it's from a distance, it looks like a, you know, real massive landscape. I really like the composition of this. Saw Gerrera is not taking up too much of the frame, and the landscape in the background, and the little door creates a really nice frame and kind of directs your eye straight to the important parts of this shot. And I guess my only critique would be, I kind of wish his little bunker or whatever was a little bit darker. Like, the back of his head is a little bit too bright. It would have been nice if it was a bit more covered, and, you know, that you got the dark bunker and then you've got the light outside. But I think this is such a solid image. Like, that was such a small critique. And then the second image as well, I always love it when I see people use their landscape to their advantage. You got the shells and sticks, and then you've got Boba Fett, you know, getting eaten. It's like very well done here. I give these images an 8 out of 10 for creativity and composition, and just the ideas behind it is really well done. Well done, man. Moving on to Jorus Luton. This first image here I'm really fond of because it is a nice, interesting, like, low angle shot, and it looks like you've got two Lego pieces next to it to create a nice frame. It creates for like an intimate frame between these two characters, and I mean, I haven't got a whole lot to say about it. It's a really nice image. But as far as the second image goes, I really like the colors, but my only critique is the Photoshop job wasn't the best. I mean, you can see that her foot goes over the blaster a little bit, so you can kind of tell that, you know, she's been photoshopped out. And also the droid isn't really pointing his blaster towards her. I think if you were to reshoot this, then, you know, have the droid facing his blaster towards her and have her leg go behind the blaster so that it looks a bit more realistic. I like the idea, I like the colors, but as far as the execution goes, it wasn't the best, but still a really cool idea. I give these images a solid 6 out of 10. I'm saying solid so many times, but I give these images a 6 out of 10. Good stuff. Now moving on to Judith Huff. We got these two nice images. The crocodile image and the boat is really, really nice. My only critique is I wish the aperture was a bit wider so that we could see a little bit more of the image. Like, it'd be nice to have the crocodile and also the figure in the background a little bit more in focus, because he's got a really interesting expression and he's got the action of, you know, going to spike it or whatever. And of course be able to see a little bit more of the background, but still a solid image, and the reflection that you got is perfect and it's a very cool image. The second image I really like. like. Just the faint, like you can just subtly see his arms in the water, and then you've got the nice reflection, and the greens go super well with this character because he's got, you know, a brown bandana looks like, and also his dark green face. It just fits very, very well together. I really like this image. So solid stuff here. I give these images a 7 out of 10. Great stuff. Now moving on to probably one of my most loyal supporters is LegoMC. This guy is always commenting on my posts, reposting them, and he has just consistently been supporting my accounts, and I wanted to make sure that I got him in this video. So this image here, it's a really nice, simple, clean shot of just what looks like Indiana Jones and a nice bulb in front of him, which creates this like sunlight almost, and he's on a desert. And I really like this fogginess to the light. I don't know how to explain that, but there's this nice fog around the light. It looks very, very cool, and the light leaks around him. Just, it's a very epic shot. And then as far as the second shot goes, I really like the idea and where you've shot this, but there's just a few Photoshop things that need to be corrected, I think. It looks like you've tried to remove the blue tack from the arms. It's almost impossible to do, even for myself. I would struggle with this so badly, but what you can do is you can get blue tack that either matches the lady's torso, or you change the color of the blue tack in Photoshop to match, and it wouldn't be so noticeable. These rocks, I think you've created a nice depth of field, like the rocks in the front are out of focus, which is what they should be, but I think there's a little bit too much going on. Some of the rocks tend to fade a little bit into the background, which isn't the most natural thing for them to be doing, and I think it would have been nicer to have no rocks at the top, but I think this is a really solid attempt. I see the idea, I like the idea, but as far as the execution goes, it could just be improved in different aspects, but I think it's still a really cool image. I give these images a 6 out of 10. Great stuff. Now, probably onto one of my favorite images of this whole series, submitted by LucasLeonBarog. Balrog and Gandalf just sitting on a branch, eating ice cream and what looks like a cookie. Like, everything seems to be set up so perfectly. Like, you've got the lens flare, you've got these nice, like, grass, like moss poking through the tree that they're sitting on, and the fact that you took Gandalf's legs off and had them sitting like this, like, huge props to you again. I hate doing that sort of stuff, but everything here just seems to be positioned so well. I really like this. And then the Radagast photo as well, like, I don't know if you've created the snow using baking powder or if this is real snow, but I really like how you've got the snow proportionate to the figures, because sometimes if you use snow or baking powder, it can look massive on the figures because they're so small, but it's really faint and really subtle here, which I really like, and you've done a terrific job there. Definitely giving these images a 9 out of 10. These are just incredible. Well done. Now moving on to MadsMini. She has done something I've never seen before, and that's taking a Lego figure to an amusement park, and I only just noticed this now, but the roller coaster in the background looks like Slinky. This must be like a Toy Story themed roller coaster or something, and I think it's just so nice. Like, the colors work super well together, and the idea to have Woody, you know, playing his guitar on the sign or whatever, and timing that photo to have the roller coaster going through is so cool. I really like this photo. And then the second image, I mean, not a whole lot to say here. I think it's really cool. I like the lighting, I like the composition, and also the background has nice layers to it, so that's really cool. I give these images an 8 out of 10. I really like these images. Well done. Now moving on to our last images is Veroni Landry. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing these wrong. We've got a beautiful image of the Up characters here, and I just love the butterfly on Doug's nose. It looks so cool. And also the butterfly in the background and the nice greens, and it just creates for a really, really nice looking image. I say that so much, but I genuinely mean it here. And then this image, I had no idea how you've done this, because it looks like you've created a whole bunch of ice, and I don't even know if it's on water. If it's on water, then this is really cool. There's a whole bunch of ice and stuff, and I love how you've put the ice together. It creates a really nice looking natural landscape, you know, that this boat would be going through this landscape, and you've created it in a way that looks natural, which is really, really cool. And I like how all the figures are positioned. You know, you've got the woman in the front, you know, leading the ship, and then you've got, you know, the guy in the back kind of looking over, which is kind of cool. Everyone's doing their own thing, and then there's somebody up on the sail. And two solid images. I give these images a solid 8 out of 10. I really like these images. I've said solid so many times throughout these images. Ay. But yeah, those were all the images that I'll be reviewing today. I'll definitely be doing a part 2 to this series where I'll be reviewing more. A huge thank you to everyone who have sent through images. This is something I'm definitely going to be doing again. I'd love to know which of these photos were your guys' favorite, and I'll leave everybody everybody's Instagrams in the description below for you guys to go check them out. But yeah, that's another video done. I've got 2 huge videos on the way that I'm super happy about. I've been planning for months. I can't say a whole lot about them, but probably 2 of my best videos of the year. So stick around for that. Subscribe, like the video, share it around. It really helps me out a lot. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.